Yo, what's up, guys? We're back for another breakdown predictions video. This week we got UFC Vegas 102. It's going to be headlined by Jared Cannonier and Gregory Rodrigues. And I actually like this card. This is going to be a card that I have, I believe, the most bets on any UFC card so far this year. So from a betting perspective, I kind of like this card. I like some of the matchups. And we're coming off another good week last week where we won money on the Patreon. We've won 3 out of 4 weeks betting on the UFC, and we've been giving out some good advice. Zhu Rong came through for us, so that was pretty awesome to see him get the win there. So thanks everyone that watched last week. Hit the like button. Let's try to do even better this week. Get more likes, get more interaction. So put a comment down below. Would really appreciate it. If you want to make some money, get access to some bets, to some other different promotions breakdowns, to written breakdowns, go to patreon.com/MMA Prediction Guru. It's going to be in the description. You're also going to be helping the channel out with that. And yeah, man, but let's get into this first fight of the night here because it's a good one. Gabriel Bonfim, he's going to be taking on Khaos Williams. And I believe that this is going to be a clash of styles because both of these guys are finishers, but personally, I just think that when you look at it, I see Khaos Williams having more of the knockout threat. Bonfim, his stand-up is really nice. His jab is nasty. He'll rip 1-2s. He'll go to the body. Real fast, sharp. And he likes to kind of create a brawl to force guys to panic and shoot, and then he'll snatch the neck. But you saw in his last fight, after he had gotten finished, he was a little bit smarter, a little safer, and using the jab way more. His front kicks, his round kicks to the body are nice, brutal knees, and he landed over 100 significant strikes in his last fight. So I think in order to get to Bonfim, you have to pressure him. You can't let him come forward and dictate pace and space with the jab. So you might have to absorb some damage, but make it a dogfight, and you could see that Bonfim can get a little spastic inside. He gets clipped. Nicholas Dalby was able to kind of walk him down, and when he started to deny the takedowns, it was over. Bonfim kind of crumbled a little bit, but Bonfim is a really good grappler. He's physical, he's strong. I wouldn't say he's the greatest wrestler, but he'll kind of ragdoll guys, and on top, he has good top pressure. He'll kind of wait for you to make a mistake and then try to snatch the neck. And conditioning-wise, I feel like his conditioning isn't the best, but it's not bad. I mean, he fought at a high pace his last fight. He will get tired, but I feel like he's more of someone that struggles with handling adversity, and when that hits, he can kind of crumble. But Khaos Williams, he's a durable guy. He's a power puncher. He's really strong, good conditioning. I wouldn't say he's the most skilled, but when you have those other assets, you can kind of get away with being less technical. And he's getting better, too. It's just the main weapon that he has is that danger factor on the feet. He's always going to have the big power. He's a counterpuncher. He likes to walk you down. He has pretty good hands. It seems like he's getting a little bit more composed, but he likes to throw big counter rights. He'll throw left hooks. His leg kicks are pretty decent, but at times he will just blitz forward with his chin right in the air. And you have to move around and not stand in front of Khaos. When you get in exchanges or you stand in front of him and let him explode on you, that's when he can catch you. But he's super susceptible to jabs, straight punches. And if you use your footwork and kind of skirt around him and just touch him from the outside, you could definitely out-volume him and just beat him in that way. His last fight versus Carlson Harris, I felt like he looked the best he ever looked, though. He looked way less stiff. He actually was setting up his power with jabs to the body and then landed a brutal knockout. But I think Bonfim is going to be a tougher task. But Khaos Williams is going to be a hard guy, I believe, to take down. His grappling is kind of unknown. We haven't really seen someone actually test his grappling that much. The only person that's been able to take down Williams is Michel Pereira. And he didn't really do anything with it on the ground. But looking at this fight, like I said, I kind of think it's going to be a decision win for Bonfim or a knockout for Khaos. Bonfim, if he wins, he's going to use the jab and dictate pace with that. And Khaos, I think he has to keep the pressure on, try to back Bonfim up, get the read on the jab, or try to counter with something big. And I think that, honestly, I'm going to lean with Bonfim just because he's more skilled. But I do think that Khaos is a live dog in this one. But I'm going to pick Gabriel Bonfim to win this via decision. And in the second fight of the night, we got Angela Hill in a very familiar position, taking on another prospect here, kind of a perennial gatekeeper. And she is the most experienced female fighter, I believe, in UFC history. She's approaching 30 appearances in the octagon. And at 40, she's still a viable fighter. She's won 3 of her last 5 fights. Ketlen Souza, she's 29. She's on a 2-fight win streak. And she's coming off a victory over Yasmin Hargui, who I know is someone that is trained at Alliance out there with Angela Hill and was a young, pretty touted prospect. So that was a big victory. So if she can win this one, it's going to signify that she might be a perennial contender in the future. And for Angela Hill, it's just another prospect to push down the ladder and continue these longevity records. But Souza, I would say she's actually a very good striker. She's patient. She walks fighters down. She'll cut the cage off. And when she lets go really well with her hands. Her right hand is always locked and loaded. She throws with bad intentions. She can be low volume, kind of wait for the perfect shot, but she will back you up and she'll rip combinations if you're just stagnant. And she'll look fast and dangerous in the times that she does do that. She's good at controlling the center. She'll stay patient and keep you at bay with that counter right. And she throws a lot of looping strikes, but I feel when she's throwing straight, that's when she's at her best. She's been finished with leg kicks, body kicks, so I feel like her kick defense might not be the greatest. And she was getting lit up for the most part in round 1 against Yasmin, but she ended up just catching her and knocking her out in an exchange. If you move around on Souza and kind of keep the distance on her and don't let her get her boxing going, she could struggle. But she has 8 knockout wins, and it looks like she has elite power for this weight class. Ketlen Souza's wrestling, grappling, wasn't as impressed with that. Her wrestling defense may be improving, but she's been taken down in 2 of her 3 UFC fights. She got subbed out quickly against Karini Silva, and she did defend the majority of the takedowns versus Marnik Mann, but Mann wasn't sending the takedowns up at all, and she was still able to get a couple of them. Her last fight, she did get a rear naked choke win, but it was pretty much a knockout. I mean, she dropped Hargui hard and then jumped right on the choke. And she's been finishing all 4 of her losses. So when Souza loses, she tends to lose big. I expect Hill to come out here with the pressure game plan. I think Souza's going to let Hill pressure to try to land the counter right hand, and Hill's going to use a lot of feints to counter that. And if she pressures, feints, stabs from long range with their straights, their kicks, I think she's going to get ahead. And I think she's going to be able to land early and often. If she can take away the right hand and not stand in front of Souza, then I think she's going to have a lot of success. And she should mix in takedowns. Her wrestling is much better nowadays. I think she should be the far superior fighter in that department in this matchup. And even if she can't take Souza down, I think she could more than likely hold her in the clinch at a bare minimum against the cage, kind of bleed the clock a little bit, use knees, use elbows. And if she does get on top, she's effective there. We've seen her get a submission win recently. And conditioning for Hill is never a problem. She has excellent cardio. I think she has an advantage in that department as well. So it's going to be volume and variety from Hill versus power from Souza. But I think if Angela can mix in takedowns, she can win clearly. And she's never been knocked out, Angela Hill, so very durable. And I think Ketlen, she's going to have to be really wild to win this fight. You see the fighters who beaten Hill lately, like Tabitha Ricci, Mackenzie Dern. They weren't afraid to just blitz in with aggressive shots and kind of keep Hill defensive. But Souza isn't normally someone who keeps a really high pace like that. And the fighters who've been able to do that with Hill have not had any fear of Hill's wrestling or grappling. With Souza, I think that she's not going to want to do that because she's going to get clenched up or taken down, or the fear of that happening. So I kind of expect Hill to go out there and mix it up and do what she does and get the win. Use her cardio, use her experience. She's only been finished twice in 31 fights, so it's going to be tough to take her out. And I kind of see this being another Angela Hill victory by decision. And I'm going to be going with Angela Hill, the veteran, in this matchup. And up next, we got a flyweight fight. We got Rafael Estevam, who's making a comeback. He hasn't fought in over a year. The last time we saw him was November of 2023. And he got a big win that night against Charles Johnson, which is aged super well. He's 12-0 overall. And I would say he's one of the better prospects in the division, but he's fighting someone that's been active and winning lately in Jesus Aguilar. Aguilar had a tough debut versus Tatsuro Taira that didn't go his way, but he's won 3 UFC fights in a row since then. And he hasn't just been skirting by. 2 of those wins were first-round finishes, so he's proven that he's a dangerous guy. He got another upset victory, a first-round submission win in his last fight, so he's definitely coming in here confident and on form. Estevam, his wrestling looks really good, super fast level changes. He can get throws in the clinch. He can kind of get on the back from standing. His grappling looks slick, nice back takes, good top control. Ground and pound looks okay. His submission game looks all right. I would say he's more of a control-based guy, but he can finish you on the ground. And his last fight, he really let off almost no ground and pound strikes, though. I feel like he was really worried about Johnson getting back up to his feet and kind of won off back control in the first 2 rounds. And third round, he got really beat up. His cardio is good, but if he can't get the takedown, he just doesn't have much on the feet and gets sloppy. And for Aguilar, he's kind of a fire hydrant type of guy, super strong, explosive. He's real wild in the stand-up. He'll throw big kicks, big power hooks, overhands, kind of wings, punches, but he's unorthodox. He makes it work. He has been able to knock a couple guys out, and he's unorthodox on the ground, too. In the Mateus Mendonça fight, he had a couple Derek Lewis kind of just get up moments at times, and he'll stay calm even in terrible situations, like when he's fully flattened out from the back mount. And his trademark so far has been the guillotine. He'll jump guillotine, no fear of that. He was able to actually put Stuart Nicole out cold with it in his last fight. But this fight, I'm not sure if going for guillotine is really the way to go. He's going to pull some, but ultimately, I'm not sure if he's going to get it against a guy like Estevam. But his conditioning is on point, so he's not going to slow down. And I think he's gotten these early finishes, but trying to extend this fight may be the smart decision. And I think he has the ability to ruin things in a second for bettors, but Estevam is probably going to be able to take him down and just control him for at least 2 of the 3 rounds at minimum, if not all 3, and probably win a decision here. So Rafael Estevam is going to be the prediction for me. And in this next fight, we got the heavyweights. We got Valter Walker taking on the number 14 ranked heavyweight in the world, Dontale Mays. Pretty funny there, but Walker, I think the UFC is obviously trying to get him in the rankings with the win here. He is coming off that quick submission victory in his second UFC fight after kind of laying an egg in his debut. But obviously, with the guy like Dontale Mays being ranked, the state of the heavyweight division in 2025 is not good. And Walker, 6'6", a guy that can wrestle, I think the UFC is interested in what he could do. Dontale Mays, he's kind of established. He's 4-6, very average heavyweight. He's coming off a loss to Shamil Gassiev. This should be fun to watch just because Mays is athletic. He wants to use movement, point fight from the outside. Walker is going to be trying to close the distance, wrestle. Both of them are 6'6", so they're going to be tall skyscrapers out there, but Walker, real one-dimensional guy. He relies heavily on the double, and he does have a fast shot for someone his size, but doesn't really set his takedowns up with much offense on the feet. He'll use some leg kicks. He'll throw an overhand or two, but really he's just kind of a sitting duck in the stand-up. His chin has been able to hold up so far, so sometimes he'll take a shot and then just use that to get the fight to the ground, but his wrestling for heavyweight is good. His last fight, he got the heel hook with 4 seconds left in round 1, and we've seen Dontale submitted with the leg lock against Cyril Gahn, so maybe we'll see that happen again, but Junior Tafa's grappling is non-existent, so I'm not sure how many guys he's really going to submit in the UFC. I feel like he's more of a lay and pray type of guy, but his conditioning, it's decent enough. I mean, if he can hold you down, but we saw him really slow down against Lucas Bresky, a guy that was able to get back up to his feet a few times after some takedowns, but if he takes down Mays, I see Mays just laying on his back like we saw his last fight, but on the feet, I mean, Mays is somewhat evasive. He'll throw big hooks, overhands, uppercuts are alright. Hard body kicks. I think that if he could start setting up that body kick and not get taken down when he's throwing it, it could be a factor. But he just has almost no ability to really control distance. He jumps in and out kind of sloppily, and he's active, but he doesn't really have a ton of power. The only UFC level guy he's been able to knock out is a really old Arlovsky. And, I feel like he's going to probably get taken down. And when he does get taken down, he doesn't show any urgency to get back up. Cardio for Mays, I'm not impressed with either. I feel like he also slows down like Walker does. Whoever wins this fight is probably going to look like a big favorite in hindsight, but I'm having kind of a, I'm not super confident. Mays has some more experience. If he could just keep the distance, he might be able to win. But I'm going to say Valter Walker gets the takedowns, just is a little hungrier and is able to take this fight. So give me Valter Walker in this one to use his wrestling to get the W. And for this next fight, we got a veteran against a prospect with Vince Morales taking on Elijah Smith. Vince Morales is going to be 12 years older at 34 to Elijah Smith's 22. And this is going to be a second stint in the UFC. He had to take a short notice fight halfway across the world versus Taylor Lapilus last September to get back in the company. And now he's trying to get back in the win column. And he definitely has better circumstances here. He's going to fight in the city he trains in, Las Vegas. He's at a familiar venue in the Apex. And this is going to be his 10th fight in the UFC, but just the second fight on his new contract. He's 3-6, so he can't afford many more losses. He's 34, so it's kind of one final chance for him to make a run. And Elijah Smith, he is 7-1 overall. This is going to be his UFC debut coming off the Contender Series, and he's in a sink or swim position because he doesn't have the best resume overall, and he's not that old, but very skillful guy. And I would say this is a hard debut because he's fighting a guy in Vince Morales who doesn't have the best UFC record, but someone that has been competitive with some really good guys and fought the who's who. But Elijah Smith is a freak athlete, and on the feet he has blistering hand speed. He's patient. He has good fighting instincts. He throws sharp jabs, good 1-2s down the middle. For the most part, he keeps his punches straight. He will kind of loop his right hand sometimes, but he's actually pretty technical and good distance control. He'll kind of snipe guys. He will throw some uppercuts. I've seen him throw some kicks as well, but kind of basic with what he's going to do. Kind of just looks to use his speed and throw 1-2s, but he has good pop. He has some quick knockouts. I wouldn't say he has insane power or anything, but if you run into his punches, he can knock you out. And he doesn't really offer much on the inside. I would say that if you pressure him, throw hooks or combinations, he could struggle a little bit. But he is mobile. He is fast. He's hard to kind of corral. As the fight goes on, he'll slow down a little bit. I actually kind of thought that Aaron Towle won their fight on the Contender Series, but Smith was awarded the decision in that one. And Reyes Cortez did get a third-round knockout. So as the fight goes on, you can kind of get to him a little bit more, but he is an evasive guy. I kind of question his durability a little bit, but he is a dog. He proved that in his last fight. And he's a solid wrestler. He will time some takedowns, kind of just ride you out. His wrestling is pretty much all he has in the grappling currently. He's not really someone that offers too much in terms of submission game. He does have a couple submissions, but more guys just giving up the neck because they don't want to be in there anymore. But I'm not sure he wants to roll around on the mat with. Fuck, man. I'm not sure he wants to roll around on the mat with someone like Vince Morales. I feel like he's gonna want to keep it standing, but Vince Morales, southpaw boxer. He's put a lot more emphasis on his wrestling and grappling lately. He uses that long bladed stance. He'll use the jab or the check hook to stay active, time some counter hooks, overhands. His uppercut looks good, and he's going to have to get in that dirty boxing range and kind of hang in there, which he doesn't usually like to do. He's more risk averse, and that's why he's in a lot of close decisions. But, if he can make it more of a boxing match in the pocket and be a little bit less hesitant in this one, then I think he's going to have a chance to really get to Elijah Smith, because I think he's better overall in the inside. It's just if he's going to want to take that risk to be there. So I'm just not sure, but we're going to find out. And I think that Morales is the better overall fighter. I mean, he's used his wrestling recently to get some nice chokes, as Darce is obviously something that he's really good with. And I think if Elijah Smith gets tired in the third and starts shooting, Morales can maybe catch that neck. I think that pushing the pace is going to be something that he has to do. But man, I don't know. Something's telling me that Vince Morales is the better fighter here, but he's going to leave it on the table. And I see Smith being a little faster, maybe having a little bit better optics and pulling off a kind of a slimy decision. I do think the line, coming down for Morales is correct, though. I feel like that minus 240 was way too wide, but something's telling me Elijah Smith is going to edge this one. But I'm curious what you guys think about this fight. You guys have Vince Morales. I see a lot of people on Vince Morales this week. My bad for those fucking ads, man. That was annoying. But, yeah, I got Elijah Smith by decision. And in this next fight, we got Julia Avila taking on Jacqueline Cavalcanti. And Avila, she's back after sitting out all of 2024 with a knee injury. She didn't just have one ACL surgery now at this point in her career. I believe that's her second. And she has 2 surgically repaired knees. But she is 36 and still feels like she has something left. I heard in an interview where she was saying she feels she's rushing it, but doesn't want to miss out on being able to still compete at this point in her life. To me, that kind of screams money grab, but we'll see if she comes in for a paycheck or to win fight night. But she's a savage, though. I mean, she's powerful. She's big for the division. If you brawl with her, she can knock you out. And she has decent boxing skills. I mean, her jab is effective. She'll throw some nice punches in the pocket. But she's just a little stiff and robotic. And she's going to have to figure out how to cut the cage off and land on Cavalcanti, who's very mobile and evasive and sharp. But Avila has decent jiu-jitsu, but it seems like the knee injuries took away her wrestling ability almost completely. She got absolutely mauled in her fight with Miesha Tate, had really no resistance there. So taking her down, that's kind of a clear path to beat her at this point. If she gets on top of you, I think that's a big problem. I mean, I feel like Avila is a very physically strong and imposing fighter with finishing ability. But we'll see just how much she has left in the tank at this point. And for Jackie Cavalcanti, she's very skilled. Great distance control, nice leg kicks, jabs, check hooks. She'll pull fighters into combinations. Her last fight was really impressive because she put herself in the fire. She pushed the pace. She put it on Nora Cornell. And this fight, she needs to do the same thing. Be aggressive, use her feints to pull Avila out, and then use her speed to be in and out, counter, distance control, land, and not get hit, and just stay sharp. And I feel like Cavalcanti can get takedowns as well, potentially, in this fight. She doesn't really show that, but I feel like it's possible. If the striking is a little bit tougher. Avilar's landed some heavy punches. I think Cavalcanti can mix it up and get the takedown. And yeah, I hear good things about Cavalcanti. She trains out here in Vegas, and I've heard from a few people that she looks really good. So I feel like she has enough to get the job done here. But I feel like Avila is dangerous. But the line is where it's at for a reason. I mean, you look at the point in these girls' career, 9 years younger for Cavalcanti, more active, winning recently. Avila's been losing, injuries, coming back after a layoff. So Cavalcanti is going to get the job done in this one and get the victory, I feel. And this first fight on the main card, we got Rodolfo Vieira and Andre Petroski. And on paper, it looks like a fight for jiu-jitsu nerds. We got two of the best grapplers in the division. And Rodolfo Vieira, in my eyes, resume-wise, might be the best grappler in the UFC. But Petroski, he's been calling out all the best grapplers in the division for years now and saying that he wants to prove that he is the best MMA grappling in the world. And he's actually been successful. He submitted Nick Maximoff. He got kind of a controversial victory and more of a kickboxing fight with GM3. But Rodolfo Vieira is a different animal. Recently, both guys have been looking good. They've won 2 in a row. Petroski has been more active, and this is Rodolfo's first fight in a year. A lot of people on this card are coming off layoffs, but Petroski's coming in this fight on pretty short notice, I believe. Vieira's had a full camp, and he was actually going to fight Jacob Malkoun, who's someone that beat Petroski. But both these guys are kind of on the outside of top 15 looking in. I don't really have a lot of interest in this from a betting perspective, though. The stand-up is not great for either fighter. I feel like Vieira maybe is slightly better on the feet, but he just doesn't offer as much. I mean, Petroski has more variety and is going to be a little more wild. Vieira is, I believe, a little better defense, more durable. The jab for Vieira is nice. I feel like if you had to pinpoint, like, who has the best singular asset on the feet, I would say it's probably Vieira's jab. But if it stays standing, I mean, I feel like it's going to be really close. And, man, I just don't know if Vieira is going to be able to take down Petroski. I can't remember someone that's actually taken down and held Petroski down, really. If it's just a kickboxing fight, I think it's going to be competitive. But I'm still going to lean with the favor just because I feel like he's going to have sharper defense. He might be a little bit more powerful. And if it does go to the ground some way, even if he's on bottom, I think he can half-guard sweep. And if he gets on top, he's probably going to bank that round. So I could see a submission win too as well. But I'm going to go with Rodolfo Vieira. And this next fight, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one because I think it's pretty obvious what the UFC wants to happen with this matchup. We got Edmen Shahbazyan coming back, taking on Dylan Budka. And pretty wild that Shahbazyan is still only 27. I know when he first came to the UFC, he had all those talks being the youngest UFC champion and all that. So he came in at a really young age, but it feels like he's been around forever and he's still 27. But coming off that loss to GM3 where he hurt GM3, had GM3, all but out of there, but gassed out trying to get the finish and then ended up getting finished by GM3. And that's been the theme of his career this second half. He had that quick rise, got fraud checked by Brunson, and ever since then it's like a lot of inconsistency, mostly losses, and a lot of fights where he gassed out and got finished. But he's been fighting some upper echelon guys. Now they're giving him Dylan Budka, someone that's 0-2 in the UFC, that gassed out against a pure kickboxer and then got finished in his debut, and then his last fight, had another uninspiring performance against Andre Petroski. So I think Edmen could take down Budka from what we saw in his last fight and dominate him on top, maybe finish him with ground and pound. And he should be the better striker as well. Budka, inexperienced, he's kind of a boxer, wrestler type. And I just don't know what he has to offer to get the win in this one. I feel like getting on top of Edmen and breaking his spirit, obviously, but Budka to me isn't really like a cardio machine either. He doesn't have great wrestling. I feel like he's not that dangerous anywhere. I just feel like he's not UFC level, and Edmen could probably roll through most guys outside the top 15, top 25. So I think Edmen's probably going to get the win here in dominant fashion and get back on track. And this next fight, we got an interesting one. I really like this one. I think it's going to be a banger. It's two Contender Series guys. They're looking for their first UFC win. Connor Matthews, 0-1 in the UFC. It's going to be the debut for Delgado. Matthews, 32, so he's 6 years older than Delgado, but both guys have had the same amount of fights, kind of faced similar level of competition. Matthews is coming in here off of his debut loss in the UFC. He also lost his first time in the Contender Series and came back and won the second, so he's proven to be a bounce-back guy before. Delgado, he only needed one shot at Contender Series to get the job done and earn a contract. He beat Ernie Juarez in August in pretty dominant fashion. He had a good first round. It seemed like he was fatiguing a little bit, but caught the knee early in the second, knocked Ernie Juarez out, and got the contract. He's 8-1 overall. He's won 5 straight fights. And both these fighters are representing good gyms. Connor Matthews, training out of New England Cartel. We got Delgado out of the MMA lab. Delgado, I would say, is an all-action fighter. He pushes a crazy high pace. He mixes it up between striking and wrestling. Throws nasty combinations. Long rangey. He likes to use all his limbs to pick fighters apart. He has a wide arsenal of attacks to all parts of the body. He'll throw nice straight punches. He has nice knees, elbows. Stays active with the kicks too. And he tries to drown fighters with volume. He's relentless. He will put himself in the fire. His offense is his defense. I've seen him get dropped before. Doesn't really have great head movement. If you can land in between his combinations or as he enters, you can hurt him. His last fight even, he was getting clipped in exchanges, but right now he's a dog. You have to put him out cold to stop him, and ended up landing that sick knee and knocked Ernie Juarez out in round 2. And he has solid grappling skills. He will get fighters to chase him and get body locks, and on top, he's position over submission. You'll just wear on guys. You'll throw solid ground and pound and kind of take what they give him. Gotten a couple rear naked chokes, front chokes. Good scrambling ability. He doesn't look like he's the easiest guy to take down. And his one loss, he did get held down by Chris McCarty. But if you know anything about Chris McCarty, that guy's a beast wrestler. And didn't really give Delgado a lot of opportunities. He kind of just laid on him. For Delgado, I feel like he has to stay aggressive. He has to walk Matthews down, try to stuff the takedowns, go for takedowns himself even, and just use that all-action style. But Connor Matthews is an underrated guy. I believe he does a good job of controlling the center. He pushes the pace. He'll back fighters up, and he lets his hands go. And he did get knocked out in his last fight after 2 fairly close rounds, but he's dangerous in the pocket. He has fast hands. He has good pull counters. His leg kicks, his teeps are good. He'll switch stances. In his Contender Series win, he did great work with the body kicks, and I think he needs to use that here. And he just doesn't move his head or feint his way in that well, so guys can land on him as he's closing the gap and do damage. And his fights at Contender Series and UFC level have all been wars, so it seems as if Matthews has to put himself in the fire and throw volume to be effective because he's not the most powerful guy, but he has great conditioning. If you get tired on him against him or don't have knockout power to back him off, you're in big trouble versus Matthews. But Matthews can mix it up too. He will time takedowns. He has good clinch takedowns, good doubles. Kind of can get a little over aggressive with the grappling though. I've seen him lose position quite a bit trying to chase the back, but he does have decent, I believe he's a black belt. But Matthews' defensive wrestling hasn't been tested much in recent fights. He did get taken down quite a few times by Francis Marshall, but he's going to get him back up to his feet. I feel like he can't let Delgado take him down and settle, because if he does, it's going to be very difficult for him to get this win. But cardio for Matthews is really good, and he has to make this a dogfight. Hope Delgado slows down and then take over from there. I think he has to win this one via his boxing too. I'm not sure the wrestling is going to be there for him until Delgado gets tired. But I don't get why the line is where it's at. I think that Conor Matthews is vulnerable at range. Maybe Delgado could pull him into something, but in the pocket, Matthews has the advantage, I think. And I think Matthews has the cardio edge. Delgado is long range fighter, but he normally does most of his work in the pocket. Like, he has long and rangy limbs, I mean, but either he does things when he's going forward or, in the pocket. So if Matthews puts him on the back foot and lets his hands go, I think he could be effective. And the leg kicks and body kicks should be there for Matthews as well. I think Delgado needs to hurt Matthews to get him moving backward and then take him out. And I do think Delgado maybe could get a takedown or two, but I don't see him being able to do much with it. I think it's probably just going to fatigue him more than anything. And if this fight gets past the 6-7 minute mark, I see it becoming Matthews' fight to lose. So I'm going to take Matthews for the upset here, and I'm going to predict that he gets the victory in this fight. So I'm going to say Conor Matthews pulls this off as the plus 235 underdog. And if you haven't seen yet, man, Fitz did do an interview with Conor Matthews this week. It is on the channel, so go check that out, man. He did a great job on the interview, and yeah, man, I'm picking Conor Matthews to pull off this upset here. And this next fight, this is going to be a fun one. I think it's going to be two guys that are going to go out there and have a boxing match with 4-ounce gloves on, but 2-1 for Ismael Bonfim. He's coming off the win over Vince Bichelle, and he had that really crazy knockout win over Terrence McKinney. His loss was to Benoit Saint-Denis, who's obviously a beast. And Nazim Sadykhov, 2-1 in the UFC. His last fight, he had that classic war with Borshev. And prior to that, he got a submission win over McKinney. And then he got a victory over Evan Elder, which was a little bit fluky because he was losing the fight, but he won off of a cut. And he hasn't fought in over a year, so it's a layoff for him. And both these guys have similar styles, though. They can wrestle, but they primarily like to box. I feel like Bonfim has the way superior grappling. Probably could make this fight way easier by mixing it up, but I bet both these guys are just going to brawl it out. And Bonfim and Sadykhov, they both like to fight in the pocket, so I expect this fight to take place in the phone booth. Most of the time, Sadykhov will walk fighters down and look to land powerful counters. He's low volume, but he slips and rips well. He stays tight defensively, and when he connects, he hits hard. He did get out volume for the majority of his last fight, and that's why it was a draw. He hurt. Sadykhov in round 2 almost finished him, but lost round 1 and round 3. And his high guard does leave the body open, and sometimes Sadykhov will get kind of touched up trying to get into the pocket, but he's the more economical and tight fighter. Bonfim can kind of open up and get wild, but Bonfim has a nice jab, good leg kicks. He'll feint to get guys to throw and then use that head movement to slip and counter with big lead hook or rear hand. And he has power. He's really aggressive. I feel like he's a little bit more powerful than Sadykhov with the hands. And for Sadykhov, I think throwing kicks is going to be very beneficial for him. Bonfim tends to just eat the kicks to try to counter, and Benoit Saint-Denis really lit him up with kicks. But I think Sadykhov is going to come in here with more of a boxing game plan, and that's going to give Bonfim the edge here on the feet. I feel like he's going to use the jab to win this fight. I think the jab is going to be the difference, but I don't have the greatest read on this one. I feel like Bonfim maybe is a little more durable as well. But what do you guys think about this fight? Is anyone giving Sadykhov a chance to pull the upset here? And if so, tell me why in the comments. And if you're confident on Bonfim, I want to know why as well. So tell me what you think about this fight and why you're leaning on who you're leaning on. And in the co-main event of the evening, we got Cavalcanti. He is going to be taking on Youssef Zalal. And Cavalcanti's in a little bit of desperation mode here. Formerly a top 5 fighter in the world, a perennial contender. He just hasn't really looked the same in a long time. He did have that great bounce-back win over Giga Chikadze, but that was in January of 2022, and he hasn't won a fight in 3 years. He's lost 3 in a row. His last fight, he got dominated by Aljamain Sterling. His loss to Josh Emmett was debatable, and then his fight versus Arnold Allen, he hurt his knee. So you can make some excuses for those losses, but his performance versus Aljamain was not the greatest, and that was after a long layoff. He had the knee surgery, 36 years old, so you have to question if he's, washed up or not. But he has a tough task here. He's taking on the streaking Youssef Zalal. You just did see Rob Font, though, who is in a very similar position. Both these guys went to TriStar. They've been training together for years. And Rob Font went in there and beat Kyler Phillips, saved his job, and won in dominant fashion. So we'll see if Cavalcanti can produce similar results here. But Youssef Zalal, he's looked like a new man since being cut and re-signed by the UFC. His first stint with the promotion, he went 3-3-1, so inconsistency kind of plagued him. But since getting cut and returning to UFC in 2022, he's 3-0 with 3 finishes. He's actually won 6 fights in a row since being released, and he's never really fought someone or beaten. He has fought Ilie Topuria, but he's never beaten someone as high caliber as Cavalcanti. So this is his chance to kind of prove he can hang with the big dogs in the weight division. And when you're looking at Youssef Zalal, he is a well-rounded technical fighter. On the feet, he's very evasive. He uses a lot of lateral footwork. He'll try to pull fighters into jabs, 1-2s, check hooks, and recently he's shown really good timing with his knees. He actually hurt Billy Q and Jack Shore with knees. He has alright leg kicks, front kicks to the body, and his hand combinations are pretty decent when he can get them going. He has good hand speed. His head movement is good, so he gets fighters start missing big, and that's when the knees or the takedowns come from him. And his hands don't really have a lot of power, but obviously if he lands with those legs, he can hurt you. And Zalal always won and finished fights recently by mixing it up more, timing takedowns. And I don't know how good of a wrestler he really is. I feel like this fight's going to kind of bear that out more. His fight with Billy Q, he got that foot sweep trip takedown, and I just wouldn't be surprised to see that type of takedown work on Kattar. But he does have good level changes. He'll push you against a cage and try to take you down from there. His body locks, like I said, are decent. And when he gets fights to the ground, he's been very aggressive recently. He has good arm triangles, which he's gotten in 2 of his last 4 fights. And then you also try to get the back and submit you in that way. But he has 4 submission wins in a row. So obviously, he's going to be trying to get another finish here. And for Cavalcanti, he's been fighting for years at the top level, so there's a lot of tape on him, but his style is still really effective, and this is a step down in competition for him. You look at his style where he has elite pressure, he has great defense. He can eat some punches as he enters range, but he's very high volume. He rolls with shots well. He'll slip and return with bigger, more powerful shots. He has a sick jab. He'll double, triple it up to get inside. His 1-2s are really nice. He'll mix in heavy body punches, uppercuts. His check hooks, his counters are on point. He has decent front kicks to the body, low kicks. What's really dangerous about Kattar are his elbows, though, man. He throws nasty standing elbows. He's really good at landing them in between his combinations. He has a great chin. He stays in your face. He pushes the pace. His conditioning is on point. He didn't really look like himself, though, in his fight versus Sterling. Sterling just wrestled Kattar up pretty easily, kind of muted his offense, and it makes me nervous about his ability to stuff takedowns after that knee injury. But Aljamain Sterling, I think, is on another level in the grappling in comparison to Zalal in the wrestling. So I think Kattar has a better chance of stuffing this one, and if he can, it's going to be interesting. And Kattar is a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and he kind of showed that off by not really taking much damage versus Aljamain Sterling. But his offensive submission game has not really been shown in the UFC at all. And honestly, I think the line is way off on this fight. This fight could go either way. It comes down to how washed Kattar is. On the feet, Kattar is superior. He's going to keep the pressure on. I think he may struggle a little early on with the speed, but he's going to be more powerful. And when Zalal slows down, I think Kattar can take over. And if he can defend a couple takedowns or get back up after he's taken down and get back on the gas, I think he can win this fight. Zalal needs these takedowns in control. I don't see a sub as that likely after seeing Sterling do nothing versus Kattar on the ground. And honestly, man, I'm going to roll with Kattar here and see if he can wind back the clock, because I feel like Zalal is overrated and the line's off. Kattar's fought way better guys. He's a dog. He's more powerful. He's bigger. And if he just doesn't get grinded on, I think he could win. And if Kattar loses here, I think it's retirement time. But I'm hoping he's just, comes in here similar to with the Rob Font situation, like I said, going to TriStar has rejuvenated him a little bit. And it's one of those fights where in hindsight it could look 2020 and everyone riding the momentum train as a law could look smart and make me look dumb. But I think Kattar deserves more respect than being a plus 325 dog. So I'm willing to pick him here and go with Kattar in this co-main event fight. And finally in the co-main event, we got an explosive middleweight fight between Jared, the Killer Gorilla Cannonier, and Gregory Robocop Rodrigues. And it's a fight between a guy going up and a guy going down, with Greg Rodrigues on a win streak here. He's looking really good. I feel like ever since he got knocked out by Bruno Ferreira, for years people were telling this guy, mix it up, use your grappling, show that you could be multidimensional and you could start to roll on these guys. And it took him getting knocked out a few times to finally start doing that, because Bruno Ferreira knocked him out, and since then he's been mixing in the takedowns and looking way more impressive in my opinion. And this fight, though, this is the fight to tell exactly where he's at in the division, because he's taking on a guy that's coming in here on 2 losses, but someone that's been in there with the best of the best, that has wins over some of the greatest middleweights ever, and just went a hard 5 rounds with Cavalcanti, where he did win 2 rounds. And even versus Nazim Mavov, he was winning 2018 in that fight. So although Cannonier's 40, I believe he's going to be turning 41 on fight night, he's still being competitive with these guys, and he's fighting the cream of the crop, whereas Gregory Rodrigues is fighting prospects like Christian Leroy Duncan and, these lower-level opposition, these older vets like Brad Tavares. I think Cannonier's fighting a much higher-level schedule, but you got to take into account the fact that he took a lot of damage last year at an age that is not conducive to taking a lot of damage, and he's a low-volume, kind of hesitant striker. Gregory Rodrigues, his defense isn't the greatest, but he's going to keep on the gas and throw volume. He's going to throw big power shots, and I think that mixing it up and going for takedowns are kind of just overwhelming Cannonier with variety, kind of like we saw Rodrigues Duplessis do against Sean Strickland. Just winning by doing more is going to be the game plan here. And I think that if he can get Cannonier backed up and land on him heavy, he has the power to knock Cannonier out or really hurt him, because Cannonier has historically been durable, but he's been getting dropped and hurt recently in more of his fights, and I think that Rodrigues has the power to bring that out. But Jared Cannonier, man, the guy has a really nice jab. He moves well, and if he pulls Gregory into some big power punches, maybe he could knock him out. But the thing is with Cannonier is he hasn't gotten a knockout in, 3 years. He just hasn't been that much of a finisher, and I feel like if he can't knock out Rodrigues or get him really hesitant with his power, Rodrigues is just going to overwhelm him by doing more and being more active and pressured forward, being younger, fresher, hungrier, and that's kind of what I see happening. I think Robocop's going to win this one just off youthfulness and being a little more durable and maybe even a little more powerful. Jared Cannonier is usually used to being the bully in these fights at middleweight, the stronger, more powerful guy. In this one, I don't know if he's going to be able to claim that. And Robocop is a real tall guy. He's going to be like 3-4 inches taller than Cannonier. I think that's going to play a factor. And I just got Jared Cannonier getting this win in this fight. Gregory Rodrigues. So Gregory Rodrigues, I think, could win this one inside the distance as well. I'm going to say he wins via 3rd or 4th round finish here, and I'm going to go with Robocop. So there you have it, guys. It's a full card breakdown of predictions for UFC Vegas 102. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you learned something. For my most confident pick on this card, I will go with Edmen Shahbazyan. I know that's a weird most confident pick, but I feel like he's definitely going to get the job done in that one. I think Cavalcanti could win too, and that's a decent parlay, but it's not really the greatest odds. So for play of the week, I'll give you guys Angela Hill. I think she's going to get the victory in this fight. So for play of the week, I'd say Angela Hill. So thanks for watching, guys. Like I said at the start of the video, hit the like button, put a comment down below. Let's try to get some good interaction here. And if you want access to my bets, if you want access to additional content, patreon.com/MMAPredictionGuru is the place to go. So see you guys in the next video, and peace out.